Hello, my name is Marissa Hamilton. I'm here on behalf of myself, Mr. Chairman, members. I am an appointed precinct committeeman in LD 28. And the reason why I am appointed is because we have when I ran for Phoenix mayor last year, I wanted to make sure that I could show that I could represent people in a nonpartisan fashion. And so I expected later on that I could become appointed, knowing that I wouldn't have the full privileges of an elected precinct committee person because I had not earned the right to be chosen by the people in my neighborhood. That is a precious right, that right to vote. And I accepted that. Our grassroots are the foundation of all of our parties. It is the foundation of our constitutional republic, but the election of the PCs is purely a democratic process in that it is a majority vote. And many of the members here tweet oftentimes about protecting democracy. This is our moment as a state to stand up and say that in Arizona, no matter what, we protect democracy of that foundation of the precinct committeemen at the lowest level of our Republican government. It's the level that educates the voters. It is the level that gets out and knocks on those doors, drives out the vote. It's the level that makes sure that America stays great. And it is the level that we must all defend and protect and it should now become the highest priority of this body of the legislature, in my humble opinion, to make sure that we restore PC elections. We must never allow a single election cycle to go where people have been had their vote stolen from them of who represents them in their neighborhoods. Thank you so much.
And you, as an appointed PC, not elected, can you run for LD chair or county chair?
Chairman, Representative Martinez, no, I cannot.
And I think what I'm trying to illustrate here, and it's a point I did not articulate well. I don't have the talents of Mr. Hoffman there. I wish I did. My question to you is, you not being an elected PC, if you are not an elected PC moving forward, those options are not only, you're not able to vote on them, but you're also not able to run on them also.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Martinez, yes, that's correct. And I would further add to that, nor have I earned the right to do that because my neighborhood, my precinct, did not vote for me to be that voice for them.
And to that point, Mr. Chairman, thank you so very much for answering my questions, and please forgive me if I'm just not articulating them well enough. So then, in your LD, going forward to that election, and we only have one precinct, and this would be for both parties, if we only have one precinct elected committeeman, how can we have a chair for an LD? How can we have a county chair for LD? How can we have state committeemen on both parties? And if you're not a state committeeman, how can you go to the national convention and be a national committeeman? So not only is this, Rob, for you, and I'm sorry, I just felt like you would know that and have more input, and I would welcome your input. That's my question to you, and then maybe even to Jen Morrison.
Sure. Chairman, Representative Martinez, if I may speak candidly on this. Please. I think that this fundamentally disrupts the entire structure that we have created in all of our parties. In Arizona, we have prided ourselves that we care about the people's voice, that we all serve to the people's voice. And as someone that is appointed, I technically serve the voice of the person that appointed me. I do not serve the people because they did not elect me. And although I personally strive to make sure that I am reaching out and finding out and listening to my neighbors on all sides of the aisle to find what are the best solutions for them before I even utter my mouth on an opinion on an issue, if I am not elected, then I have not earned that right. And so your specific question as to how does this impact down the line, it impacts everything. If our political parties are not fundamentally backed by a voice of the people, then that means that our parties now become the incestuous corruption that that so many voices have lost trust in the electoral process because of. And so this must maintain the foundation in Arizona of our government, of our political system, of our political parties. If we do not have elected PCs, then the ramifications down the road of all the areas that you mentioned are fundamentally destroyed. It ends up being voter suppression. People are not going to want to vote if they know their voice doesn't count. And the way that this body can show that you care, that you truly care about all of those people that knock on on the doors of their neighbors to get you elected, all of those people that do those voter registration drives, then give us the same privilege that you have and the same responsibility that you have of being elected.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With my talented co-chair, Paul.
Dan Farley out of LD 23. As far as the elected PC versus appointed PC process, there are those within the party that like to game the rules, whether they be extending meetings so you don't have a facility long enough to vote on bylaws, whether you run a meeting long enough to where people get tired and they leave and there's not a quorum. And there's gamesmanship of making PCs or appointing PCs, sometimes without them even knowing that they're a PC. Okay? So if you set a low threshold without signatures requiring 10, can you not ballot stuff a whole bunch of PCs? And if it does go to the ballot, how are you going to put 100 PCs on a ballot for a vote? The fact that you have to get signatures and there's an effort ensures that you have more integrity to the process. And to the points that were being made earlier, these bylaws and so on say state committeemen have to be elected, a chairman has to be elected, and so on. So you're undermining everything that this republic is supposed to stand for. And I would highly encourage you to take those into account when rewriting this or pulling it back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Farley, thank you so much for being here. I happen to know that you understand a lot about bylaws, and I know that you do. Let's say that this bill is not corrected, that Section 4 is not repealed. Let's pretend that doesn't happen unanimously out of the House. What is your best guess on the party structure for both parties? I'm assuming that the Republican and the Democrat Party are the same, in the structure. I don't know. And so if that's the case, according to statute, when we don't have any elected PCs, can you comment a little bit about that? Because I know you have an extensive background on that.
Okay, so this is a redistricting year, and I'm going through the census and that type of stuff just like you guys. So all these LDs are supposed to be voting on new chairmen over the next 30 days or so, and the new bylaws, and we're trying to get our arms around what those are going to be for boilerplates for the legislative districts. That said, it's my understanding that the county bylaws and the state bylaws do not change. And those specifically, like for the state party, you have to be an elected precinct committeeman in order to be a state committeeman to have a voice in the state party. And in the county party, you have to be an elected PC to take leadership roles. And if they're all appointed, and this point was made earlier, if those that are in power are choosing the ones that are voting for them, that's a corrupt system. It's absurd that this was even passed, that this wasn't discussed. I mean, I wonder, have you guys been PCs and do you understand the process? Because if you did, this should have set off alarms right away. At minimum, you should have checked with the state parties on this.
For a point of clarification, if appointed PCs cannot vote for any leadership at the county or state level,
No, they can't run for office.
Yeah. Then there would be nobody, and everybody becomes appointed based on this, then there would be no county or state party.
Exactly.
When the election occurs, if everybody's appointed, then in a year, because our state, one thing I do like about our state versus others, is every year you have an opportunity to evolve your party to represent you. But yeah, if you are required to be an elected PC, then to become a state committeeman, in order to run for office for, let's say, first vice chair, how can you be a state committeeman to run for first vice chair?
And to that point, Mr. Chairman, to that point, so if you're not an elected PC, okay, and you're an appointed PC and you vote on a county chair, an LD chair, can that be brought into court, and could the other party sue on that and say, you know what, party, you know, according to your bylaws, according to statute, you know, you're supposed to be voted on by elected PCs. You have no elected PCs, only an appointment, yet you still have a county chair, you still have a party chair, you still have state committeemen. Can the other party challenge that and take them to court and basically dismantle the party? Can that happen?
I'm not a lawyer, but I think the point you're making is there's a domino effect. Everything's structured around being elected PCs. Don't screw with that. You're going to create domino problems everywhere. That's not healthy. And you're going to have more news headlines and more mistrust of our government if that occurs. Get rid of this. Remain elected PCs. That needs to happen. And you have to be elected to have any moral authority to lead, by the way. If people don't believe that you are elected, why are they going to follow you?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?